Welcome to Pokemon Future and Past and the Equas Region, a new Fakemon region based in South America with a particular focus on the Galapagos Islands and Ecuador. The artist, Josh Dunlop, whose Instagrams I will link in the description, has also taken inspiration from classic adventure stories too. The theme of the Equus region is nature-verse technology, and the island in the region is a prehistoric enclave which fits the future and past narrative. There are also two new Pokemon types in this region, Sound and Celestial, so make sure you look out for the new Pokemon with these types too. Introducing our grass type starter, which is Floratops, which I think is very, very cute, and I love that it's based on a dinosaur as well. It's based on a ceratopsian, kind of got like that frill around its head, and evolves into Calicatops, and as you can see, that part on the head has got much bigger now, and it starts to get some spikes around it as well, not just on that part of the head, but also along the back, and then finally it evolves into our grass and ground type Pokemon, Stenocactops, and as you can see, it's got much more spikes on its body now as well. That horn on the face is much bigger, looks very, very dangerous, and we can see the artist has provided what they've used as their inspirations. So you can see the ceratopsians, as I said before, the dinosaur that's based on, but of course it's also based on cacti as well. Our fire type starter is called Kotiki, which is based on the Coatimundi, which is a small mammal that lives in Central and South America, but this looks very cool. I love the stripy tail that it's got as well. It looks very cute. And then evolves into Kotorcha, which is getting much more mature now, and as you can see, it's still standing bipedal as well. It's almost providing a bit of a fighting stance, and yep, as I thought, it evolved into a fire and fighting type, and I can already read the comments on this. So many people hate fire and fighting starters. I don't mind it personally, because when I'm looking at Fakemon regions, I mainly look at the design of the Pokemon, but I do understand that some people don't like it. But this is very cool. Kocinda, and as I said, they are based on Coatimundis, but also Capoeira as well, which is like a dancing martial arts kind of style in South America. And our water starter is called Hippofoam, which I think is awesome. I think having some hippo Pokemon is very, very cool, but it's also got like some bubbles on its back as well, which is really interesting. And then evolves into Hippolather, which is actually a water and rock type. The other two middle evolutions didn't have an extra typing, but Hippolather does. So it's a water and rock type. You can see those bubbles have almost made like a bit of a shell on its back now. It's got two little peaks, I guess, on the back of its shell there. And then lastly evolves into Hippotherma, which again, of course, is our water and rock type. And as we can see, those parts on the back have now grown into corals, and the bubbles is taking over a bit of its head as well, but definitely looks like a fully grown, fully mature hippo. So which starter are you going to take? I think I'm going to choose the grass starter. I love the dinosaur and cactus coming together. I think that is really cool, so I'm going to choose Floratops as my starter. Comment down below what yours is going to be. Our Route 1 bird for the region is called Chipek, and it is a pure flying type Pokemon, and it's based on a blue jay, which of course gives it that coloring. It evolves into J-Real, which is getting a little bit more attitude now, I think, and as you can see, it's got some interesting stripes on the tail and on the wings here. And then lastly evolves into Blue Jet, which looks like it would be a very, very fast Pokemon. Again, we've stayed pure flying type, and we can see we've got the lines on the tail and the wings again, and that is because our Blue Jays have got lots of patterns on them too. It's also based on air racing, so if you think of some of those extremely fast fighter jets, the next Pokemon you may see is Hopspring, which is a grass and bug type Pokemon. I think it looks very cute. I love the giant eyes that it's got, and it's based on a grasshopper as well. And it evolves into Locust Stalk, which a mature grasshopper now, which is very cool, but it's actually based on a motorbike because these Pokemon are ones that the people in the region can actually ride, and the long antennas on the head are ones that the people hold on to while they're riding it. So I think that is such a cool idea. I would love to ride a giant grasshopper. Another Route 1 bug that you're going to see is a bug and grass type Stumbug, which looks very little and sleepy, which is very cute, and it's based on a stick insect, of course. It evolves into Twigatodia, which is getting a bit longer now. It's not so much of a stump, it's now looking like a stick, but still very sleepy. And then lastly evolves into Farbranch, and as you can see, still our stick insect, but it's actually got a few spikes along it, and that's because it's also based on a silk floss tree, which are these trees that have spikes all along them. So to have a bit of a protective coating to our stick insects, I think is a really cool idea. Next, we have our first sound type Pokemon. This is Bibino, a sound to normal type Pokemon, and it's based off an opossum, and you can see why it's called a sound type Pokemon, because it is crying, and I can imagine it being very, very loud as it's crying. It evolves into Possumbrella, which is now actually lost the sound typing, which is a very interesting idea to lose the sound typing as it evolves, I guess, because it's no longer crying anymore. So it's actually just a pure normal type Pokemon. So Possumbrella is hanging upside down and does have have the shape of an umbrella as well. And then lastly, we have a split evolution. If the Pokemon is a female, it evolves into Possum Mama, and as you can see, that tail is very long and it's holding lots of the baby Pokemon on it as well. But if our Pokemon is a male, then it becomes Possum Papa, which is using that umbrella tail now to give it a bit of a shelter, and it's got like an old man beard and stuff as well. Next is Flopa, which is a pure normal type Pokemon. It's based off a Bloodhound, but it is a really cool ability because its ears are so long that when it gets excited, it can actually trip over its ears, which I think is very cute. But it can also flip its head back and forth so quickly that its ears can clap together and make a sonic boom. And then evolves into Hound Dog, which is just a fantastic name, which of course is a grown-up Bloodhound now, which I think is just an awesome idea. Our Pika clone for the region is Vischica, which of course is a pure electric type Pokemon. It's actually based on a Vizcacha, which is kind of like a chinchilla, but a bit more of a grown-up version. I love that it's got whiskers that are like a very bright blue aqua kind of color, which really stands out. And it can actually use those whiskers to build up an EMP pulse. Our first solo Pokemon, so this one does not evolve. It is called Marimorte. It is a ghost and fairy type Pokemon, and it combines inspirations from the Day of the Dead, but also a mariachi player as well. I love the design for this Pokemon. Definitely looks very, very Mexican inspired. And next we have Hornbird, which is a sound and flying type, obviously based on a hornbill bird, which looks very much similar to that, especially with the shape of the beak. And it evolves into Tocophony, which I think looks really nice as well. It definitely looks like a bit more of a mature version of the bird, but as I said, based on a hornbill, but is also based on a sonic boom, so that's what gives it its sound type, because this Pokemon can actually create sonic booms. Our first ice Pokemon that we're going to see in this region is an ice and water type, and it's called Chilibara, obviously based on a capybara, but this looks very, very cute. And then evolves into Chiliguaya, which is still a capybara. I like the interesting pattern that it's got around the waist of the Pokemon here. This next Pokemon, I'm actually going to show you the inspiration first, because as we know with the Mantine, it looks like there's a Remoraid that hangs underneath it to help it out, but actually is a little bit different to a Remoraid, as it says here. So we have a three-way split evolution for this next Pokemon I'm going to show you. First of all, we have Sakura, which is the baby Pokemon, and it just looks almost like a tadpole, but is actually a fish. It is a pure water type Pokemon. Now, depending on how its stats determines how it evolves. So first of all, it can evolve into Sukuba if it has maxed out defense, and as we can see, it's got like a bit of a grate on the top of its head. If it has maxed out speed, it evolves into Sailora. As we can see, those extra fins are quite giant now, so it can fly through the air, and of course is a water and flying type because of that. And if it has max attack, it evolves into Remoraid, the Pokemon that we already know. So a three-way split evolution here. The animals that were based on were the flying fish that I mentioned before, but also the Remora fish. So that sort of grating, kind of interesting look on the top of its head is what gave us the look for Sukuba over there. We have another split evolution now. This time it is a flamingo-based Pokemon called Chipingo, which is a straight-up normal type, and I think this is adorable. I absolutely love this cute flamingo, but it evolves based on the type of algae that you feed it, which can change the stats of the Pokemon. So first of all, it can evolve into Flamambo. These kind of remind me of Oricorio a little bit in terms of the coloring and the differences between the designs, but this is a normal and flying type now, obviously based on the dance. Next is Flasalsa, another dance, of course. Different colorings, slightly different designs on it. And then the last option is Florumba, another dance. This is the speed-based one. We have a couple of lizard-based Pokemon now. The first one is Gecko, which is a fire and dark type Pokemon. And I love that the tongue that is sticking out looks like molten lava. And of course, there's a massive flame on its tail as well. It then evolves into Komodo, which is based on a Komodo dragon. As you can see, the coloring is very different now. It almost looks like molten dark rock covering most of its body. That tongue is now like spewing and almost dribbling with lava. And then next we have Gargawana, which is a pure water type Pokemon, and is based on a goanna. Looks very sleepy, but it's got some bubbles coming out of it, and it's got some spikes along its head and its tail as well. And then evolves into Geyserwana, which is a goanna and a geyser together. Those spikes are much, much bigger now. That puff of smoke, or probably water vapor, coming out of its nostrils is just like a geyser as well. And its legs almost remind me of a frog a little bit, so I wonder if it can do really big jumps. Next, we have a grass and fire type Pokemon, Cannon Peter, which almost looks like a vine with fruit coming off it, I guess, but all of those little fruits have faces, and as you can see, there's fire coming off one of them, because this is based off a cannonball tree, and then it can evolve into Carniflora. So that vine has evolved into a bit more of a Pokemon now, where it's got legs and arms and can move around. Next, we have Spornixie, which is a water and ghost type Pokemon, which is based on frog spawns or frog eggs. It evolves into Nymphaqua, which is now more like a tadpole. Looks a little bit creepy, I would say. It's actually interesting because as it evolves into Frog Glass, it loses loses its water typing and gains the psychic typing, because this Pokemon can actually make barriers similar to a Mr. Mime, but then use those barriers to jump and hop onto, and it looks like it's just hopping on air, but it's jumping on these invisible barriers, which I think is just a very cool idea. And these are based on the glass frog, which is why you can see in between this Pokemon and you can see inside it. Next, we have some shark Pokemon, and I absolutely love sharks. We have Sharkin, which is a water and electric type Pokemon. You can see that kind of electric bolt looking design through its body as well, and it's based on a black tipped reef shark, so it's got a tip on the top of its fin there as well. It evolves into Sharif, which is now a much bigger shark, and you can see that top dorsal fin is very, very tall, and it's also got a very long tail as well, similar to a black tipped reef shark has a very, very long tail. And it evolves into Sharazer, which is much bigger now. That fin on the top of it is so long, it can actually cut the bottom of ships and boats as it swims underneath them. So I love this whole shark line. Next, we have Polybra, which is a Pokemon on its own that doesn't evolve. It is a water and psychic type Pokemon. Looks a lot like a parrotfish with all of its bright colors, because that is what it's based on. And it's got that beak like a parrotfish does as well. And it also combines a cerebral, which is part of the brain. And you can see that in the massive head that it's got as well. Next is a normal type Pokemon called boar, which looks very cute. I do like this a lot. It evolves into Pekka-Rage, which has some massive tusks now. It's got 4 of them actually, and they're long and they're curved. And then it lastly evolves into Barbaroussa, which has got a huge mound on its back, lots of hair on it as well, and again has those massive tusks. They're based on wild boars, but more specifically, it's based on a peccary, and the Barbaroussa, you can see in the name as well, had that. But the Barbaroussa has those 4 tusks on its head. Next, we have some fish, and we actually have our first celestial type now. We've got a water and celestial type Pokemon called Moonish, which looks like a crescent moon. This is a very, very cool looking design. But then it evolves into Lunapa, which is a water and celestial type again. And these are both based on the Moonfish and the Opafish. And then next we have Solamola, which is actually split evolution from our Moonish. So this is again a water and celestial type, but if you use the Sunstone, then it evolves into Solamola instead. So this is based on our Sunfish, which are giant fish. But I also love that it's based on the Aztec calendar stone as well. Because this is a South American region, I love that we've got some Aztec references here as well. We're about halfway through our region at the moment, but I've gone back to our Gecko line because I want to show you some of the shinies. Now, the shiny version for our Gecko line is actually green, which looks amazing. It looks like some kind of toxic ooze coming out of the mouths now. And this is a 1 in 8,000 chance of getting a shiny Pokemon in this region. But this region also has something called ultra shiny Pokemon. So the ultra shinies for this one are a very different color as well. The Ultra Shinies is a 1 in 10,000 chance. Now, I'm a shiny Pokemon hunter, so I love and hate this design because that means I'm gonna have to go through the whole region catching every shiny Pokemon and catching every Ultra Shiny Pokemon. But if you want to check out all of the shiny Pokemon and all the Ultra Shinies, make sure to check out the Pokemon Future and Past Instagram, which will be down in the description below. I'm also gonna link you Joshua Dunlop, who is the artist. I'm gonna link his Instagram as well. I've actually worked with Joshua Dunlop before on my Pokemon in Real Life series, so it's awesome that I was able to chat to him again. He gave me permission to go through this region because he's a fantastic artist, so check out his main Instagram as well. I do love my spider Pokemon, so now we're going to go into Widectus, which is a bug and poison type spider, and this is based on a Black Widow. We can see we've got the skull and crossbones on the abdomen, which is very, very cool. It's also spiky on the abdomen as well, which is interesting. And then it evolves into Orbidea, which is based on our golden Orbweaver spider. You can see it's got that big yellow abdomen as well, just like the golden Orbweaver spider, as we can see down here. Next, we have some catfish Pokemon. So we have a water and ground type called Cataqua. Looks just like a catfish, has those massive whiskers as well, but I love the evolution here. Gargamazon, which combines Amazon in there as well, but it's one of those giant catfish that you hear in old urban legends and old tales by fishermen. So it's got like a big beard as well. That is actually a water and steel type Pokemon as well now, so it's changed typing. Next, we have a third evolution for our Sharpedo. We've got a Charmaran. So this is actually based on a Trimaran, like those boats with the 3 main sections in them, and we can see that on our Sharpedo evolution as well. People actually ride them within this region. It has a massive fin as well that acts like a sail. Next, we've got a poison and grass type Dartoad. This is based on a poison dart frog, but also combines a blowgun as well. It evolves into Projectoad, which looks kind of humanoid. I don't know, kind of get Greninja vibes from this a little bit, but you can see it's definitely got that blowgun as well. And the coloring, very similar to a poison dart frog, which is very, very bright in real real life, so other animals know to avoid it. Next, we have Emo Tamara, which is another spider. Looks very, very happy, but actually has a few different versions, so we can see, based on how it's feeling, it can change the way that it looks. So our happy form looks very happy, and the abdomen looks very happy as well, but our sad form, the abdomen face changes, and then our mad form looks like quite a scary, angry version. Instead of Tyrogue, we now have Tyrascal, and as you can see, it is a boxing form Pokemon, but has different kinds of evolutions. Instead of Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee, we now have, first one is Hitmonlang, which is the version of Hitmonlee, but then the alternative is Hitmonlee, which is like our Hitmonchan. Different version, and that's because they are based on female fighters now. We've got Layla Ali and Marie Lang, who are our Pokemon that it's based on, and then instead of Hitmontop, we have Hitmongyro. You see, he's got that pointed head, it's got a wide body to spin around like a gyroscope as well. And now next, we've had what I've always wanted, which is a baby version of Tauros. This is called Carphoro, which is a pure normal type. Looks like a little baby calf. I love that, but I also love the tail, how it's twisted around. That's really cool. Now, the way that this evolves, if it is male, it evolves into Tauros. If it is female, it actually evolves into Tora, which is very cool. Definitely looks kind of feminine, but it's actually based on Neapolitan ice cream as well. If you look at the colorings in there, it does look like Neapolitan ice cream. Next is Glubble, which is a pure water type Pokemon, obviously based on a sea snail, but the two specific type of snails that's based on are the bubble snail and the raft snail, because this can actually make a little raft for itself that's able to float along the top of the water to get along. Next is Corductor, which is another sound type. We've got our sound and flying type based on a macaw, but also based on a conductor. You can tell in the name there, but if you have a close look at the tail and on the feather on the head, it actually makes a music note, which I think is very, very cool, but also has the rainbow colors of a macaw in there as well. Now, it wouldn't be a South American region if we didn't have some alpacas or some llamas in here. We've got our fairy and celestial type, which is called Alpanada, which is a llama crossed with a pinata together, kind of giving me Fortnite vibes there, but looks very cool. I love how the eyes are covered. The eyes are still covered when it evolves into Llama Pichu, which has the name Machu Picchu in it as well. Another sound type now is Orchata, which is a grass and sound type, and it combines a monkey with a plant as well. This uses a monkey orchid, which is a flower that looks just like a monkey's face, and a howler monkey, which are very, very loud monkeys in the jungle. Next, we have a line that reminds me of Litleo, because depending on if it's a male or a female, changes the evolution that it evolves into. So we have Catkiss, obviously combining cactus and a cat together. This is a grass and poison type. Now, if it's female, it evolves into the female version of Mantiguaro, which is based on a cactus cat. You can see very, very spiky, but also looks like a female lion as well. And I love it's got like a scorpion stinger on the end of its tail. But if it's a male, then it evolves into the male Mantiguaro, which is now based on our Manticore, another urban legend, same as the cactus cat. And we can see that the Mantiguaro has wings, has like a cactus on it as well. Next is Corsair, which is actually an evolution from Corsola, which looks like a very happy Pokemon. I love that, but it's got a beautiful, colorful rainbow reef that forms on the back of it, which is very interesting. The designer actually said that the Galarian Corsola was too depressing and we wanted a very bright, colorful version, and I 100% agree. Next is a Pokemon that is based off a whale shark called Submarine. It is a water and steel type, and I love whale sharks. They're very, very interesting and very cool, and it looks just like it, but I love the rainbow mouth in it as well. Very, very interesting take on it, but it's also based on a submarine, especially you can see that top dorsal fin kind of looks like the top part of a submarine. Next is Dashboard, which is a celestial and electric type Pokemon. Now, this Pokemon is actually made of pure light, and it works as a computer program similar to how Porygon works as well. And next we have Cowfish, which is a water and poison type Pokemon based on a cowfish. So this looks just like a dairy cow in terms of the coloring. Evolves into Highfish based on like a heifer. So we can see the coloring as well is still here, but we've also got big horns now, similar to a bull, and we can see based off the longhorn cowfish, but obviously cattle as well, especially with the coloring. But the horns that have are actually poisonous, giving it its poison typing. Next is an AI-based Pokemon. It is called Nuri, and it is a psychic and electric type Pokemon, and it kind of looks like a little robot, which is very cute, and then evolves into Cortexi. It almost looks like a hyper-intelligent alien, I think because of the size of the head there. Next, we have a baby version of a Rotom, which is called Pokerus, which Pokerus already exists in the Pokemon world, so that is very cool. It's an electric and ghost type and looks very, very cute. Of course, evolves into Rotom, but then Rotom now has a new evolution, which is called Viron, which is based on a virus. Pokerus is a virus, so that kind of makes sense, but as you can see, it looks like a bad virus. It looks very cranky and very upset. Next, we're going to explore that prehistoric enclave that I spoke about at the start of the video, and we're going to see a bunch of dinosaur-based Pokemon now. So first is Dimuch, which is a ground and grass type Pokemon, and as you can see, it almost looks like it's got a bit of a fern or a plant growing on its back there, and it evolves into Crunch, which is based on a Dimetrodon. So that Pokemon that has a massive spiky sail on it as well, but also looks like it's got a palm on the back. Next, we're going to go into Toxoteris, which is a poison and flying type Pokemon. So this looks like a pterosaur here. Definitely it's got the wings and the head and the tail like it as well. Evolves into Noxyterra, which I think is a fantastic name, combining Noxious and Terra as well. As I said, based on the pterosaurs, but also our toxic birds as well, which can actually use toxins to defend themselves. And then next, we've got our sound type dinosaur Pokemon called Parasong. This is a sound and psychic type Pokemon. So this looks very cute. I do like this a lot. You can see it's got a long elongated head and it's got holes in it because this line are based on wood flits, but also a Parasaurolophus, which are these dinosaurs that have that big long head at the back of them. So we can see that the evolution for this Charanote definitely has an elongated head with that wood instrument design in there as well. And then our last dinosaur here is Brachoia, which is a grass and rock type Pokemon, and it's based on our Brachiosaurus, but also our Sequoia trees, which are giant trees. So just combining those two things are going to make an absolutely giant Pokemon. Next is Dolphlip, which is a water and fairy type Pokemon, and it's based on the Amazon River dolphins, which don't look like normal sea dolphins at all. And we can see that this design looks very similar to our river dolphins, especially in the coloring and that long, thin snout as well. Next, I'm going to show you the pseudo-legendaries for the region. It is Boltling, which is a steel and flying type, and it's actually based on a harpy eagle, and it evolves into a griffin. So they're the two main inspirations for this. But I really like this a lot. I really like the long tail that it's got here, and it looks very happy. It evolves into Harpingot, so you can see definitely looking a bit more like a griffin now because it's on all fours. And then lastly evolves into Griffocane. Definitely looks like a griffin here, but looks very sleek and slender in its design as well, but has that massive beak like a harpy eagle, which is very dangerous. I'm now going to show you the 4 legendaries of the region. The first one being Crackyathon. 2 of the legendaries are actually giant, terrifying beasts, and 2 of them are very small and very cute. So I love that there's polar opposites with them. The first one, Crackyathon, is a steel and psychic type Pokemon, obviously based on a kraken. I love it's got segmented tentacles as well, kind of giving it like a bit of a robotic look. And the second of the large ones is a Giga Titan. This is actually based on a Giganotosaurus and a Godzilla combined together. So massive dinosaurs come together to make our Giga Titan, which is a water and dark type. And I love that the tail almost makes like a sea trident as well, maybe from Poseidon. So that's really cool. But our smaller legendary is called Hamoria, which is a grass and fairy type Pokemon. And this Pokemon is known as the luck Pokemon. So if you're able to capture this, you're meant to be having lots and lots of luck and prosperity in your future. This is based on 2 things, mainly the spatule tail hummingbird. As you can see, it's got those 2 tails similar to our Pokemon, but also the Carbuncle. But the artist does say that mainly just the story of the Carbuncle, which is based on a lot of luck. And then our final legendary Pokemon is Ocelusion, combining Ocelot and Illusion together. This Pokemon is actually very hard to find, and it's hidden in the jungles of the region. And that is the Equus region. You can see all 100 Pokemon here together. So what was your favorite? My favorites were Stenococtops, Gargamonzo, and Submarine. I thought all of those were fantastic. Let me know down in the comments below what your favorites were as well. But I hope you loved this video, guys. If you did, make sure you subscribe for lots more Pokemon content, and also check out my other Fakemon regions as well. Cheers.